What do you think strength is? Is it simply the power to beat everyone around you? To put down threats by your sheer force of will or strength? Is it the ability to be smarter and faster and tougher than everyone else? What is it to be strong in general? Then when you give me your answer to that, is it possible to realistically apply that definition to a woman? Hollywood has tried to convince us that a strong woman character is a woman who is just as good, if not better, than the men around her. She's smarter than all the mansplaining men out there who tell her how to do her job. She's funnier than all the sexist men who can only make comments about women's butts. They're not emotional because being emotional is so stereotypical and dumb and things men expect women to do. And more importantly, they're tougher, able to break records, overcome, and in some cases even beat men at things that have been usually male-dominated occupations or pastimes. I'm still waiting on the Hollywood movie about a woman who becomes the next football star quarterback. But these things are not what makes strong women. In fact, these things usually make a very bad woman character, a woman we don't care about, a woman we don't like, a woman we want to avoid. Why? Because in Hollywood's noble pursuit to give us the strong female character, they forget what makes a character in the first place. And today I want to break down the problem with how Hollywood writes strong females and tell you a more correct approach. Let's get started. Now, while I have no evidence to prove it, I think that when Hollywood or Disney is writing a new female heroine for their movies, the director is given a checklist right away so that they can make all of their strong woman characters the exact same way. The checklist, I believe, consists of 4 points, and they are as follows. Number 1. Physical or occupational capabilities on par with or superior to men of the same given field or task. See, for some reason, Hollywood is convinced that to make a strong female character, they must be physically strong, physically capable of matching or besting males at whatever they attempt. In some cases, we can accept that, but there's more to this problem. Let's say that we have a woman in a fist fight with a man twice her size. Common sense would dictate that she's going to be overpowered and beaten, as generally, on a general rule, men are usually physically stronger than women. So, for her to win, we must extend our suspension of disbelief naturally. And in order for us to do that, we need to establish a few things starting off. Does she have any special skills, powers, training, or weapons that would allow her an edge? Does the enemy have any handicaps that need to be accounted for? And the answer to those questions will help us extend our suspension. It's not wrong that she wins, but how she wins matters. Because if a film shows a woman just beating every guy she fights with no adequate explanation other than she's special, your audience will start to find trouble believing she can really do these things, and they will grow irritated that we're expected to believe it. Second, all the men that surround them will be evil, stupid, or sexist, and sometimes a combination of these. It can be hard to convince an audience that your female character is stronger than everyone else around them, so how do you solve this easily? Simple. Just make all the males in your story dumber than a brick or mind-numbingly sexist. After all, if you can get your audience to hate the males blocking your female protagonist's way, then surely they'll be okay with her mopping the floor with them, because they just deserve it. Stupid sexist pig saying that a woman needs to be saved by a man. Don't you know it's the current year? You deserve a healed stiletto to the groin for such chauvinism. And I apologize to all you fans of terrible writing advice. I was trying to do a bit of an impression of him, but I know it wasn't that great. But I feel like that's something he would say. Point being, you might think I'm over-exaggerating, but think about it for a minute. If all the men in your story are overly evil, sexist, or stupid, it is an easy way to make your character look artificially better. See, it's hard when you have a world of competent and strong men surrounding this one strong, competent female, because then it's hard for you to believe that this competent or strong female could outperform or match them. So make them stupid, make them incompetent, make them evil, or make them sexist. Then you will want the female to beat them. Not that you could believe she would, but you want her to. So you'll just say, oh, well, I don't really believe she could, but that guy's evil, so I want her to win. See what I mean? Again, you might think I'm over-exaggerating, but in Captain Marvel, She-Hulk, and the new Star Wars movies, name one male who was given respect, who wasn't either used as nostalgia bait, made to be a sexist person, or just incompetent. Take Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel took Nick Fury, the coolest dude in the Avengers.
Remember, I got my eye on you.
And turned him into a clown for the majority of the movie, even mocking how he lost his eye by having a cat scratch it out.
Last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye. Close call, huh, Goosey? Huh? Those bad guys still in there somewhere. Ow! Mother-fucking!
You okay?
Yeah, it's just a scratch.
The only friendly and competent male in She-Hulk is Bruce Banner, and he was just there for nostalgia bait. And for She-Hulk to prove she's better than him, I guess. But that's neither here nor there. And then Star Wars. If the male character isn't there to remind us Rey is the best thing ever, then they're there to oppose Rey, argue with her, tell her she's wrong, only for her to prove that she's right. There are no males in the story of these characters who have relevance. None to truly challenge the women. None who she is willing to support as they support her. None that are their own characters. Finn isn't his own character. His story has no closure. He turns into Rey's token black friend, and as Shadversity calls him, the Rey Screamer, who constantly runs out going, Rey! Anytime he sees her. Poe has no character. While he was introduced as the best pilot in the Resistance, by the last movie, Rey is a better pilot than him. Han Solo has no character. He was there for nostalgia bait and then to die. Luke Skywalker's character is a shadow of its former self, just so that Rey can prove that she was right and better than him. Kylo Ren goes from being an actually intimidating presence into an edgy emo trying to get Rey on his side. And Palpatine, the literal emperor, who for the first two trilogies turned the galaxy on its head, had Luke Skywalker on his knees, almost destroyed the Jedi entirely, and fought off in single combat 4 Jedi at once, and brought the galaxy to the ground, but was bested by Rey after she got juiced on some Jedi voodoo. Name one male who had relevance outside of Rey's story and outside of what she was trying to accomplish. Name one who had their own goals, their own story and aspirations to reach that didn't have to do with Rey. The best way to look at it from the way I talk about it is think about it like this. If you were to take this character and remove them from the world in which they were created, so take, for example, Poe or Finn, take them out of Star Wars and put them in something like Lord of the Rings, or put them in another story entirely, how would they act? What would they do? What would be their direction? Or would it just be, where's Rey? Where's Rey? Forget it. Anyway, the third point, the third piece on the checklist, a lack of emotional responsiveness. For some unknown reason, Hollywood thinks that an emotional woman is a stereotype and that it's wrong to portray them as such. And they're forgetting, though, that emotion is human, and showing a character lacking emotion is going to make us wonder if this character is even human. It is very hard to care about characters if I don't know that they care about what's going on. I watched Captain Marvel, and I can't think of a single moment where Carol Danvers showed a human emotion outside of either indifference or just anger. Really? Anyway, and the last point, and this is probably the biggest one, political grandstanding. This is the biggest one because I think this is probably the root of all the problems. The true issue that spawns the other 3 aspects we've discussed. Let me make this perfectly clear for everyone who doesn't understand and for those who are about to run to the comments section. I've gotten this a lot. A lot of people have told me in the comments about this, and I want to address it now. I am aware that many stories, fables, and legends throughout history and culture have often served to propagate some kind of message, be it political, spiritual, moral, or otherwise. However, just because the message of Frankenstein is about the consequences of presuming to play God while also understanding what constitutes life and its complexities, that doesn't take away from the fact that it is a story with characters we follow, root for, and hate. When you create a character whose only role is to be a political mouthpiece, then you have failed to create a character. When the only thing audiences and critics can say positive about your character is that they are the first woman of color to blank, or a strong woman who blank, or finally putting the patriarchy where it belongs, or any other diatribe of this kind, you've not created a character. Why? Because behind every politician, every cop, and every criminal is a human being.
The war is the world, and the world is the war. But behind every gun sight is a human being. We are those people.
We tend to forget that, but it is true. A human is more than just their political talking points. A human is more than their race, skin color, or sexual orientation. Now, these things can shape a human's experience, but it does not change the fundamental nature of being human. Let's try an example. And forgive me, I bring up One Piece a lot. But I'm going to bring it up here because I think we can take a strong woman who starts off presented in the negative ways that I talked about, but changes. Let's talk Boa Hancock from One Piece. I've mentioned her before, but briefly, she's the pirate empress. She's definitely a strong woman in the physical sense. She has the power to turn any creature who lusts after her into stone. And since she's the most sexy woman in the One Piece world, that means everyone wants her. Male, female, animal. Look, everyone wants her. But she comes off as cold, spoiled, and incredibly self-centered most of the time. And this personally pissed off Luffy upon meeting her, that she could casually kill her own loyal subjects for a mistake they made for the good of someone else.
What the hell is wrong with all of you? That woman up there! She turned 3 of your own people into stone! How can you just sit up there and laugh like that?
Tell me, with just that prerequisite, how is she different than characters like Captain Marvel or She-Hulk? While they may not have her powers, they do have her attitude, a superior and spoiled disposition, wherein the things they do must be right and everyone else doesn't even deserve their respect, let alone mercy.
What you don't understand is that I'll be forgiven for anything I do. Absolutely anything. And the reason why is because I'm beautiful.
Their allies, or in the case of Hancock, her subjects, worship the ground they walk on, believing all she does to be right, even if they disagree with it or don't like it. And their selfish attitude is warranted because it will be revealed that they somehow have been slighted by the world of men to some extent. So yes, Boa Hancock, when first presented, is very similar to these characters that we do not like. But here's where the difference comes in. Hancock shows emotion. When Luffy saves her sister's life by guarding the slave mark on her back, Hancock realizes she is in Luffy's debt and reveals her tragic tale. She even visibly weeps at recounting her suffering, showing it had both a physical and emotional impact on her.
I can't stand for anyone to know of our past. And I shall make any sacrifice to ensure that.
Her facade of self-centered brattiness is actually a front to hide a sense of inadequacy and self-loathing for being weak and fearing that, should others learn her secret, she will be hated.
Even if I must deceive my own people, I won't let anyone control us again! I fear my own subjects. I can't let anyone come close to me or they might know the truth.
Upon learning that Luffy, now knowing her secret, doesn't hate her, and in fact sympathizes with her, she falls in love with him for his righteousness and his bravery.
I suppose you find me repulsive now that you know I was a slave?
Come on, don't tell me you're serious.
She commits herself to him, discovering a newfound resolve for a man she loves and admires rather than just her own well-being, creating a drastic change in her outlook, her goals, and her desires.
You want me to follow the government's orders and go with the other warlords? If that is truly your request, then of course, I will go anywhere you like.
Hancock went from being the definition of a character we would hate into one of the most beloved characters in the show, despite not being one of the primary cast. Goals, desires, evolution, emotions, weaknesses, flaws. These are things that create characters, not just female, but any character. But these same things Hollywood fears to put in female characters. Instead of a goal, their character must have a theme, a message to tell. If a goal is given, it might distract from the intended message. The writer wants to tell this message. They have to tell this message because the theme is what they think is most important. Instead of desires, the female character must have detachment. The female character has no attachment to anything. They need no help. They need no connection. They need no bonds. Even the stereotypical power of friendship is secondary to their individuality and their ability to stand on their own. They don't need friends. They need a cheerleading section. Evolution is replaced with stagnation. The female character is stagnant and never changing, for they are already perfect. There is nothing to change. There is no growth to consider. No training required. They are already flawless, for their character must be so. Otherwise, it might convince people being female is somehow bad, that being female somehow isn't enough to be good. They think, oh, well, she's female. She's already as good as she needs to be. Emotions are replaced with indifference. Emotions are too feminine and stereotypical for some reason. The female must not feel emotion, for emotion proves investment. Emotion shows that this woman can be vulnerable, that they can be compromised, that they can have things impact her outside of the message of the story. To them, true strength is letting the world roll off of them like rainwater, even though this makes us wonder what their stakes are in this world if nothing about it has meaning to them. And weaknesses and flaws are replaced with tragic backstories. A backstory is used to show that this female went through a tragic upbringing, and thus you must sympathize with them. It explains how they got to be the way they are. Never mind why this backstory doesn't seem to have any meaningful impact on them emotionally, and why it doesn't provide any weaknesses, fears, or vulnerabilities. The backstory only serves as a means to propel the female character forward and remind everyone that they have suffered something that has turned them into the hardest, meanest badass they see now. That nothing can hurt them. They've already gone through their hurt. Guys, she's not a Mary Sue, okay? She went through a tragic backstory. Never mind the fact that it doesn't have any meaning on her now, but yeah, she had it really rough. Men called her emotional when she was growing up. A man actually catcalled her. That's awful. She's gone through hell, okay? That's why she's so good at what she does. Isn't that right, She-Hulk?
Here's the thing, Bruce. I'm great at controlling my anger. I do it all the time. But when I'm catcalled in the street, when incompetent men explain my own area of expertise to me, I do it pretty much every day.
But what you have created by doing all this is not a character. At best, what you've created is a statue. Unmoving, unfeeling, uncaring, created based on the whims and goals of an artist who wanted to tell a message or immortalize a theme, but in the end will only be looked at in passing with about as much reverence as a few seconds of acknowledgement before you move on. And then later on will be torn down by people who realize that the statue, at the end of the day, holds nothing of value. So what do? How does one write a strong female character? Well, you're already asking the wrong question. The real question should be, how do you write a strong character, period? And the answer is simple. You write a character who has goals or desires they wish to achieve. The character possesses fears, flaws, or weaknesses that hinder their ability to achieve that goal. They may have external enemies or threats that try to impact their journey. They learn. They grow. They evolve. They forge relationships and alliances to aid them and improve them. Their worldviews are challenged, if not entirely altered. They confront their hidden part of themselves that they feared to confront and determine if it was something to fear or change at all. They confront their foe and clash, sometimes physically, sometimes ideologically, sometimes with a battle of wits. But still they clash. Can you write a female character who fights and beats men? Yes, you can, but is that all they do? Do they just beat up men? Are there men that they can't beat? Are there men they look up to? Are there men they care about? Who taught them something? Are there men who made an impact on them? Let's take the animated Mulan, not the new one, the original. Let's take the animated Mulan. Yes, she beats Shan Yu in the end. But could she have beaten Shan Yu as she was at the beginning of the story? Or did she have to learn? In the most ironic twist of them all, Mulan won her fight not just because of her feminine ingenuity or because she's a girl, but because she had experienced the world of men. The song Be a Man from the movie is about the importance of being a man. It's about what men must be and about what they are capable of. Mulan had to learn to embody these qualities as much as match them with her own skills and talents. Mulan is a character who had a goal to protect her father and to save China. She had emotions. She felt ashamed of her own inadequacies, feared a lack of acceptance of failure, sadness and defeat upon being discovered, and gratitude upon victory. She had evolution, having grown and changed by the end of the story. And she had obvious flaws, such as laziness, absent-mindedness, and low self-esteem. Not to mention, pretty bad acting when trying to pretend to be a man.
Sorry you had to see that, but you know how it is when you get those manly urges. And you just gotta kill something. Fix things, cook outdoors.
What's your name?
So yes, you can make a female character who can fight alongside the guys, so long as you remember that this character has to be a character. The men she fights beside are characters too, not just sexist stereotypes. Her enemies are characters, not just elitist pigs for the woman to put down because, ew, those evil men. A strong female character is a strong character who happens to be female. Besides, I think there's a lot to be said for a female character who isn't as strong as the men around her physically. So she has to find other ways to be strong, through cleverness, through the use of her feminine wiles and qualities, through her actions, through her risks that she takes, through her willingness to make meaningful sacrifices and bravery in the face of adversity. Isn't that what makes a good character? When your character is not adequate enough to deal with the problem physically, so they must find new ways to deal with it? I thought that was the importance. I thought that was what created gripping drama. Not the fact that your character can beat everything it comes across, but the fact that they can't and they have to be more clever than that. I don't know. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. In conclusion, I know I've gone on a while. In conclusion, if your greatest praise that you can give your character is that they are strong because they are female and they can do whatever men can do, then my question for you is this. Why did you assume you could only make a powerful woman by just making her exactly like a man? That sounds a bit sexist to me. Thank you for watching this Raven's Writing Room, and I will see you in my next video. Take care.